Welcome back to the Debate Without Debate podcast, a platform focused on ending polarization through conversation. Another week, another interview. Everybody, please welcome Aaron Golbin to the DWD podcast. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Aaron, we're really excited to have this conversation with you today. Before we start anything really off, could you give everyone who doesn't know you already a little bit of an introduction to yourself, what you're about, what you do, all of that jazz?
Sure. So I'm a high school junior right now. I live in Long Island. I am a youth entrepreneur. My startups and I have been featured in numerous publications, including Forbes, Inc., MSN Money, Kidpreneurs, and some others. I run DebateIsland.com, which is a leading online debate platform globally. We're basically seeking to revolutionize the way that people debate online through artificial intelligence and various technologies to help people improve their skills. I also run lostcry.com, a website that's dedicated to my great-grandmother, a Holocaust survivor. And there, anybody can check out her story, in addition to posting their own ancestor's story of hardship, whether it's Holocaust, wars, immigration, or other topics. I also co-founded a startup called Hatcher recently, where I serve as the CTO and director of strategy. The startup is going to launch soon, actually, and it basically aims to help youth entrepreneurs and kids in underprivileged communities learn about programming, STEM skills, business, finance, and other things through interactive workshops.
That's fantastic, dude. Major props for all of that.
And he's only 17.
Yeah, and he's Joey's age. So
16.
16. Oh my God.
That's great.
Ladies, he's here for you. All right.
So let's start this off with what caught our eye the most, which was Debate Island. Could you talk to us a little bit about what was the genesis behind this? What inspired you to get so interested in transforming the way that we talk online?
Sure. So I really agree with your mission, by the way, of basically decreasing polarization through discussion and debating. So I've always had a passion for a few things. Number one, politics. Number two, technology. And number three is business. So actually in third grade, I founded my first company, which was pretty small at the time. It was just focusing inside of my school. It provided different events and things to do and activities for kids during the lunchtime. So there I learned a lot about business, organizing a business, marketing, finance, etc. But in fifth grade, that's when I really started my passion for technology and STEM and just the internet. So I learned online through codeacademy.com, which is totally free, how to program using different languages, how to start a website. And in seventh grade, I really grew my passion for debating and discussion. And I was trying to figure out how can I really debate with anybody without while being anonymous, while being able to express my own opinions and have that available to anybody who wants to. So I ended up founding in April 30th of 2016, DebateIsland.com. And now we actually have, in addition to our public platform, which is now the second largest active online debate platform globally, anywhere in the world, we also have an educational platform called Online Debate Clubs, which seeks to transform the way actual debate clubs debate, discuss, collaborate, and compete. So we're basically developing an infrastructure for debate clubs to go online, set up their own online debate club on Debate Island, compete with other debate clubs in tournaments that are all internet-based online, collaborate with their peers, collaborate with other debate clubs while posting lectures, assignments, homeworks, debates, and discussion, whether it's Lincoln Douglas, casual, persuade me. We have formalish and formal formats.
Amazing. We both have a background in speech and debate, and it seems like you're super interested in that. So that's really cool, man. It's weird how the community kind of interacts with each other. But I'm just curious on your end, why, how does anonymity play a role in the debate platform? A lot of times people, they try and fear away from anonymity, or sometimes they even gravitate towards anonymity because it allows them more freedom of expression. Why, in this case, did you choose to have an anonymous platform?
Yeah, so one of the goals of Debate Island is to basically have it open to anyone, whether they're in India, America, China, South Africa, whatever. And in order to do that, we don't just cater to formal debaters who want to be public. They don't have to be anonymous. But a lot of people that are coming from platforms social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, they want to debate in a way that they're anonymous. They're not going to be judged by their friends or family or even work colleagues for what they say if they're disagreed with, for example. So they can go on Debate Island, debate totally on a casual format. They do not have to learn how to debate, with a Lincoln Douglas style, but they can go to that, for example. They can enhance their skills while staying anonymous to make sure they're never judged or found out, or their opinions are found out from different people they actually know, and they might, have some repercussions for that.
Very interesting. It sounds quite similar to Reddit and Discord in that fashion, where you can have a bit of that anonymity. Was that kind of the inspiration for it?
Yeah, it is very similar to, I guess, social media platforms and Reddit and Quora and those kind of things in one way. But one way that we're unique is also because we have basically 5 different formats to debate. So, and it's made for debate, not just like a forum or a Q&A discussion, where if you don't want to just debate casually with some people online, you can also debate using our traditional formal Lincoln Douglas formal styles. And that's basically like an actual debate club format or a tournament format. So you can level up your skills.
Mm-hmm. So how do you factor in the sort of spectrum of perspectives? A lot of times we don't live in a world of binaries. It's not always yes or no, or you're pro-abortion or you're against abortion in some cases. Sometimes there's people who are in the middle who agree on some things and want to critique other things. How do you account for that?
So a point of a debate is to obviously have a consensus, to decrease polarization like your podcast wants to do, and have people agree on at least one topic of a debate. So that's really based on what format you're utilizing. If you're on casual, you can debate unlimitedly. You can debate for 100 years if you're alive that long, essentially. But if you're on formal, you can change the amount of rounds from 1 round to 3 rounds, the time per round. So you're going to have people voting. You're going to have our artificial intelligence, Debra AI, we call her, basically go and predict the winner of a debate. So you have different ways to see who won the debate, who gave better arguments, and eventually most users they have some sort of ground where they do agree after hearing their arguments.
It's weird because I started researching a little bit into AI over the break since we have such an exorbitant amount of time on our hands. And it seems like it's such a interesting topic, a computer determining things without human input. In your case, how does AI play a role in the debate platform?
It's a huge part of Debate Island. It's actually, we're the only debate platform that is using artificial intelligence in any capacity. So let me go over a little bit of what Debra AI is first, because there's different aspects I think will help out the audience. So the first thing that it does is it actually analyzes the comments and arguments of users. It tells them what's the grade level, how nice is your comment, are you being considerate of other people? Don't be rude. Don't be uncivil, for example, it can tell you if you are being rude. That's number 1. Number 2 is it tells you, like I said earlier, who is going to probably win a debate, or who in Debra's mind already won a debate. Number 3, which is our latest feature, is it can search through your argument, and it can look what is the political affiliation of this user, or what presidential candidate will he support. So we compile that per argument, but also per user. So, for example, if I sign up, Aaron Golbin, on DebateIsland.com, I can post an argument, for example, about immigration. And I can see, it's going to tell me, okay, you are a libertarian with Republican views, for example, or you're a Democrat with libertarian views or Green Party views. And it's going to also tell me on my profile, after doing 50 different comments, you are this party and you support this candidate, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, whatever.
Very cool. I think one of the aspects of artificial intelligence is however much information you put into it, right, is how much more accurate it can be. I've dabbled a little bit in coding, probably not nearly as much as you. I took one intro CS class, and I really wished I would like it more. I think it's super awesome. I just cannot sit there physically. You know what I mean? So how did you, especially in the beginning part, how do you go about integrating artificial intelligence, recognizing the fact that it does need a lot of information to be accurate? How do you pull that information together?
So how Debate Island works is we basically rely our Debra artificial intelligence. That's the name of our AI. It basically relies on various APIs, open source code, and also proprietary code that Debate Island built, and it's just for us. So we've already used, like, for example, and we're currently using IBM Watson, natural language understanding, as one of our APIs for Debra AI. And we're mixing that in with open source for some different things like vocabulary, etc. And we're building our own code that Debra uses. So essentially, we already have the data put in, and we're giving the AI, the API and AI more data, so it's going to improve over time. The way that machine learning works is over time, like you said, it improves by having more data sets.
Very cool. Very cool. One thing you mentioned before is it can determine whether or not your arguments are uncivil.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we could dive a little bit into that. What do you qualify as uncivil? And also, is there any level of censorship that's involved in that?
Great question. We don't have any censorship. I'm against any censorship. We keep every single comment online. We don't let the AI obviously just decide, okay, let's get this guy's argument out, because, you know, when you're building some sort of technology, you're going to probably have some sort of bias built in just automatically. And we don't want to have that happening. So we do not let the AI censor any comments. We keep the comments out, but we do provide information. For example, if we see that this user is uncivil, and by uncivil, I mean that the user is cursing, he's not being considerate, or he's insulting directly or being rude of other users. That's what uncivil means. It's going to basically warn that user, are you sure that you want to post this comment? And it's going to warn them their score. And after that happens, it's going to show on their Debra AI analytics for the comment the score of uncivility or civility based on how the comment is.
Fascinating. Part of the reason why I asked this is I know that a lot of social media platforms are dealing with this problem right now. Exactly. Yep. And things like, or social media platforms like Twitter are integrating some level of censorship. I wouldn't really call it the same as, tossing out ideas, but Donald Trump, I believe, recently passed an executive order to kind of deal with that. And there's been a lot of issues, especially among, I would say both parties actually, but I know the Republicans have had a big problem with political censorship. That's from their perspective. Whether or not that's true is something we can discuss. But why? I want to dive a little bit into the philosophy of why you chose not to censor at all. What was the thought process behind it? Can you walk us through it?
Yeah, so AI, how it works is, again, as it has more data and more comments and arguments that it has, it will get better, but it's never really perfect. And there is inherent human bias. When you're developing a product that will, based on the data sets, for example, that you're inputting, based on the information that you're giving the AI, the threshold for civility that you want to have on the website, you're going to have bias built in. So, for example, if you are a Democrat and you have a Republican or an independent posting something that you do not agree with, there's a good chance that it's going to disagree. I mean, the AI will censor that comment. So for that reason, we do not want to go ahead and let the AI just do its own thing, censor any user comments that it wants. That's just dangerous. And I don't think that our community would like that.
Why? Why do you... Because I guess the reason why I'm saying this is what makes you confident in, let's say, a case, and these are extreme scenarios, of course, and I'm sure you've talked with your team about this, and I mean, I personally have thought a lot about, even on our own platform, what we give a voice to. Mm-hmm. We do want to be a platform that wants to integrate as many different voices as possible. But the trouble of that occurs when we have very fringe voices, particularly in cases of homophobia, racism, sexism, etc., oppressive constructs. How do you go about navigating that conversation, especially with your team, regarding the philosophy you have to, include them basically on your site still, regardless of the fact that it might still harm individuals? Yeah,
so we check all of our moderators on the website very thoroughly. And if at any time we see that a moderator or somebody that is able, that has the access to actually delete a comment, if we see that they deleted a comment or they got flagged for deleting a comment that should not have been deleted, they're done. Like, they're not going to have the ability to moderate anymore. And it's very, very dangerous when you give people who you know have bias the ability to delete comments. So we do not want to really let that happen. We make sure to have thorough checks of everybody who has that type of access to make sure that our community does not, will not have their comments deleted. And by the way, our product is basically built for our community. We do user feedback. We do a lot of different things like that because they're the people who are using it. And when they tell us something like this moderator, for example, this never happened before, but if they ever would, this moderator deleted my comment because I'm a Democrat or a Republican. He disagreed with me. That's a major problem. That can't happen, not just in Debate Island. That can't happen on any platform, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it happens to be.
Following along those lines, what topics have you noticed to be the most polarizing?
I would tell you probably politics. Yeah. Because people, there are so many different stances with politics. You can be an independent, and then within the independent party, you can have 5 different parties like the Tea Party, the Green Party. You have different stances in moderate Republicans, conservative Republicans, leaning Republicans, liberals, libertarians, whatever the stance is. So you have automatically different viewpoints, like just from starting out, and it's very hard to persuade people to go with your view, although it's doable. If you're a good arguer, if you're a good debater, it's doable for sure, but it's difficult. It's a good challenge.
How do you go about allowing that process to continue, given that there's no face-to-face? I know that one of the benefits for me personally, as someone who used to be very shy, going out into public and speaking with someone face-to-face had a very different effect for me than it would online. Have you noticed that arguments can be more severe online? And also, as an addition to that, how do you still keep that level of conversational format and let the process go through so people can, potentially persuade people to another opinion?
Yeah, so actually, it's very interesting that you brought that up. It's not only online versus not like online, video, not video. It's actually, there's a difference between the formats. So if you're debating in the casual format, for example, you're going to see much more, I guess, there might be 1 or 2 comments that are uncivil. Whereas if you're in a forum, because you're going for a very long time, you're debating for a very long period of time, maybe months, whatever it happens to be, maybe weeks. If you're in the formal, whether it's Lincoln Douglas or traditional format, you only really have 3 rounds to make your point. So you don't have any time to be uncivil. And also, we judge you. People have a field that they fill out to vote. It says civility. And if people see that you're rude or you have bad remarks about the other user or whatever it may be, they're going to give you 0 points for that. You don't want to lose the debate, obviously. So that's a big thing, gamification. Gamification can actually lead to having more civility on a platform. And that's one of the reasons I think we're very, very civil, Debate Island, for the most part, much more than other debate platforms. So we're pretty civil. Then also, whether it's video or not video, there was a video platform that I saw. It's no longer up, a video debating platform. And they had a lot of people too that were pretty uncivil. And I think it's because, it's not really video or not video. I think it's more of, are you in person or are you not in person? Mm-hmm. If you're not in person, you can stop debating, whether it's text. You can stop the video chat if it's video. You can stop the call if it's a call. But if you're in person, what, are you going to run away? Mm-hmm. So you don't really want to insult other people at the end of the day if you're in person.
100%. How do you, for us, we really focus on conversation as a platform. We think that it's the best way to go in order to create some sort of materializable change. That's kind of the reason why we veered away from debate. Asher was more into debate than me in a traditional context. But we both sort of veered away from debate because we felt like it didn't have that conversation aspect. How are you sort of trying to integrate the forms of deliberative conversation into your platform without adding in sort of like ad hominems and attacks?
Yeah. Well, a conversation, when you're starting a debate, you really have two options for a conversation. If you're going to be rude, you're going to probably be rude in the first comment. It's a very small chance that you're going to start being rude all of a sudden. If you're a nice guy, you're not going to start being rude all of a sudden. So whenever we have any users, and we do have that sometimes, who tend to be uncivil, they are banned or they are warned. I mean, it's just that simple. But again, I mean, Debate Island is basically 99% civil. We just have 1% or like 0.01% who are uncivil sometimes, and that's dealt with. Like, they are banned. So, we want to have a civil online platform.
I think it's very cool that you've been able to foster such a calm and deliberative process.
Some adults can't even do that. It's wild to think that you as a 16-year-old are so mature to realize that we need these forms of platforms to actually get somewhere.
Yeah,
especially in lieu of like all the stuff which is happening now. I'm sure we could dive deeper into that, but there just seems to be.
Well, you guys are also, very, very mature to make a podcast where you're basically discussing polarizing topics. That's something that's very brave because, polarization, that's a very difficult thing. People have very opposite viewpoints, and that could get pretty heated. And the way that you can keep things very calm, that's a great thing, by the way, in your podcast.
I appreciate it. And I think part of the reason why we do it like this and we are so focused on the polarizing topic, so to speak, is because we recognize the fact, and I'm sure you'd probably agree with this, or let me know if you disagree, that these conversations are things that need to be talked about. Right, and it spans so many different.
It's like the hard stuff is always the stuff which we should probably be having
hard conversations are the ones that we need to be having, and they're meant to be hard for a reason. We're meant to feel uncomfortable for a reason, and that's what I think is so beautiful about, platforms like this, platforms like yours, that can facilitate those conversations, and especially you've taken it from a different perspective, one that I envy a lot, being able to globalize it. In a sense, you mentioned second in the world, which, by the way, is just so incredible, and there's so much value in that. And I have to say that point blank, to take your technical skills and infuse it with that. One aspect that I guess it doesn't necessarily frighten me about your platform, but I have a bit of caution with is the aspect of gamification you talk about. In my own experience, I've noticed that gamifying can actually lead people in even more polarizing perspectives because being in the gray zone makes it much more difficult for people to determine who's right or who's wrong. I'd imagine that's somewhat similar for artificial intelligence as well. They might even be able to get more precise than humans can because they do have more information. But can you talk me through a little bit more about how you gamify, how you prevent gamification from overloading someone's system to just say the most outlandish thing to win?
Yeah, what we mean by gamification, it's not like Las Vegas, for example.
Yeah.
It's very, very. It's not like anything crazy. At the end of the day, it's meant to help improve the experience, not to make it worse, not to decrease the experience. Because we're not telling you, for example, okay, if you post the longest argument, you're gonna have more points. No, that's not right. It has to be the quality. If we see that, or a user who's voting on a formal debate, or a user that is reacting to a casual debate comment, if they see that, okay, this guy is really doing a great argument, he has a lot of information, evidence, there's no insulting, I'll give him a thumbs up. I will give him 2 points for that field, the maximum points. And that's an important thing. We're not saying that, okay, stay in Debate Island for the longest time. We're going to make more money because we're going to have more people and a larger average session duration. No, we're not telling you that. That's wrong. That's not going to happen in my platform. Mm-hmm. What we do is we want the greatest content that we can possibly have. So people can learn. Whoever is going on Google searching, is Trump a good president, for example? They're going to see great content on our website from people, great debaters who are posting arguments. They're not going to see like 20,000 characters of like F words. It's going to be evidence, sources, and arguments. So we gamify to improve the experience, to make great content, not just to increase our profits.
There's one thing which I always sort of think about, even when I'm in school. Like that rubric-based success. seems like when you're writing an essay, you have to follow a rubric to get those points. It seems like it's the same thing for you on your platform. Have you ever ran into a situation where the rubric was wrong? Somebody wholeheartedly won the debate, whatever that may mean, but the rubric didn't account for that.
Here's the great thing about Debate Island. We don't really have a rubric because, for example, with casual debate or persuade me debating or formalish debating, you can debate basically like it's all everyone for themselves, every single man for themselves. You can debate however long you want. You can post whatever you want. There's no rubric. You can just do whatever you want. With formal debating, when you get into the more formal end of the spectrum, like Lincoln Douglas, that kind of stuff, there is a rubric because you're basically assigned affirmative constructive, affirmative rebuttal, whatever it is. And you're going to have to, and a lot of people enjoy that, you're going to have to basically fill in those fields. And you're going to have a rubric to vote. People are going to have a rubric to basically grade you on, I guess, how good is your arguments, how good are your arguments. And so I guess it's a rubric in a sense, but people enjoy that rubric. But the thing about Debate Island, again, it's very flexible. We're basically, we have the most debating formats available out of any online platform for debate because we allow people to do what they want to do, not what we want to do. You want to debate casually, go ahead. You want to debate formally, go ahead. It's very, very flexible that way.
Great point. I think it's remarkably important now because you're almost setting up like training grounds. Like for when people go out. Yeah, for real life. The thing that's, I guess, different is, when you're outside and you're not in a almost Pavlovian setting where you do, you get some rewards. And I have to admit, like it does kind of feel good when you win something, right? Same way if you get a cookie for when you win, you're getting the validation of other people. But when you get out of this setting, I hope, and I wonder if you could speak to this as to, some of the user experience that you've had when people go out into the world where it's not as black and white. It's not you win, you lose. I really don't think any argument comes down to that. How do they feel when they get off of the platform and they are IRL, so to speak?
Great question. Really good question. So again, based on our formats. So with casual debating, it's really meant to mimic a casual conversation. That's basically what it is. It's not really voice. Instead of voice, and you can do voice, by the way, but instead of voice, you can just do text. That's what most people do. So instead of talking to your colleague near the coffee shop, near Starbucks, you're talking online with a guy in a totally different part of the world or in a totally different state. And it's all very casual. You can debate, within 1 minute conversations, like this guy posts 1 minute, this guy posts 1 minute. And it just seems very, very simple. And basically anyone can do it. It's very simple to like a comment section, for example, but for debating and with more features for debating. Now, when you go into formal, it's win or lose, essentially. That's just how it works. But that's to mimic an actual tournament environment. Mm-hmm. And you guys, you competed, I guess, or you were part of debate club. So you probably know like what that's like if you're going to a tournament or if you're inside of a debate club and you're debating with your peers. There is a win or lose most of the time. Who's going to get that first place trophy? So that's for people to improve their skills, mainly for formal online debating. So that's just for formal debating skills. But again, casual is for anybody to improve their skills for casual debating. So you can improve your skills in a variety of different settings and formats.
What are the demographics like on your platform? And if so, like if it is unbalanced, how do you think that influences the platform and the debates which you have?
Well, obviously, based on the country that you're from, based on your gender, there is a difference in your views sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. If you're in India, for example, you probably do have a different view of social programs or economic views or political situation. Do you want to have Russia invade Crimea or whatever, because you're right near there? Whereas if you're in America, you don't really care about that as much as an Indian might who is living in India near that situation. So we don't actually collect any information on gender. We don't know anything about that. We don't want to, we're very dedicated to user privacy. We do not want to have any sensitive information, any information in our databases regarding your data. We are totally, we're totally anonymous and private. We really value data privacy. So I don't really know, if this guy's a man or a woman who's debating in one argument, for example. I do know that the countries, and it's mostly United States, United Kingdom, Canada, and Western European countries. We also do have a lot of Asian countries, which is good, and some South American countries as well, and a little bit of Africa.
Very cool. How do you
There's a lot of different perspectives, too,
of course,
which helps the debate.
Of course. One thing that we noticed when we started this is we had almost immediate global reach, but I think it was a repercussion of the fact that the platforms that we were using were accessible everywhere. How did you go about, and this is, I guess, more in the nitty-gritty of marketing and also the business model side of things, how did you go about spreading the word about your platform, especially to places that aren't the States?
Yeah, so to date, and this is I'm very proud of this, to date, we spent $0 out of pocket on any type of advertising.
Wow.
We've done everything through SEO, search engine optimization, and word of mouth. And we're very proud of that. To grow to like 10,000 plus users just based on that, that's incredible. We're going to continue to grow.
Super cool.
Whether it's based on that or advertising as well. And most countries, they have access, especially, European, American, North American, they do have internet access. There are a lot of places as well, though, that do not. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem. And that's something that I want to have Debate Island donate to that cause of increasing internet access all around the world. Just making sure that everybody has internet access, whether you're in Africa, China, whatever it is, that you're able to debate, that you're able to go on google.com and do research, that you're able to educate yourself and better yourself, get a job, get a career. There's a lot of platforms like Code Academy, code.org, that let people, educate themselves and even get a job just through like skills for free online. And that's important. I mean, that's how I learned how to program. That's how I learned basically a lot of things, business related. And I want others to be able to do that as well. So we want to actually donate in the future to that effort of expanding internet access throughout the world.
An amazing initiative, point blank. I don't think much more needs to be said there. I think Joe and I would both agree, and many of the listeners, I hope, would also agree.
Where it's at, man. That's your method is the same. Is the same thing. Which who's the horses in the back? This is so off topic, but anyway.
Oh, Lil Nas X.
Lil Nas X.
Well, that's like virality.
Yeah, the viral. It just is genius.
But one of the things he did is he started a Reddit channel that was like, oh, what's the song that's my horses in the back, and he write, Rodeo by Lil Nas X, or sorry, not Rodeo, Old Town Road. But yeah, very cool. Like the fact that you could spend $0 but build that, just a testament for anyone who's listening, by the way. Joey and I, zero money into, advertising or anything.
That's incredible. Like that. That's incredible.
Yeah, and it's just like you were saying, ours slightly different because we don't directly have a website, so we can't use the same level of SEO, although we have been trying to gear our titles for our episodes for that. But for the most part, ours was focused on tapping into the networks that we already had, having them reposting, sharing, trying our best to create viral content. And there are many different ways to get traction.
And that's a great way for like any entrepreneur in general to start a company or to start a podcast or a website. You don't have to be a millionaire to start something. I initially started Debate Island with like $50 for the website initially. You do not have to have, venture capital the second that you start a website. You can start a website with $20 and you can grow it totally organically. That's a great way to grow. Now, eventually, once you expand, once you're bigger, you can obviously go into different marketing channels, advertising channels, etc., to increase that growth further once you have revenue.
Yeah, bootstrapping.
Do that.
It works. It works.
What's your take on the term entrepreneurship? It seems like it has a two-faced identity. On one hand, people you use that term to say, hey, I'm putting in that work. And on the other hand, it's like people who put entrepreneur in their Instagram bio, but I don't know, they don't really do much. What's your take on the term itself?
That's a great question. It's actually very interesting as well. I mean, look, with entrepreneurship, if you're not going to put in a huge amount of time, effort, and work into making your business thrive, you're not going to be successful. You're just not. Because to start a company, you're gonna have to be working like 10 hours a day, 15 hours a day at some point, like when you're really at the peak of development of a company, on getting it to get the product out there, to get the product, up and running. And after that, you have to be doing a lot of time. You're gonna have to be spending a lot of time, even after that, on marketing, further development, organic traffic, a lot of different things. So if you're not willing to put the work in, you're not going to be successful. And that's just something I tell a lot of entrepreneurs. That's just the truth. You have to put the work in to be successful. But when people go on their Instagrams, on their social medias, and they say like, listen, I'm an entrepreneur because I'm starting this company that's doing, blah, 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 blah. But it's not like you're not putting any work into. It's just like, oh, I just want this title of being an entrepreneur. Look at me. That's wrong. That's wrong. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to be an entrepreneur, put the work in, start a company. Don't just sit there for a title, because guess what? Somebody's going to message you. Oh, yeah. What's your company? Okay, my company is abcdefg.com, and I have one person coming per month. What kind of entrepreneur are you? You're just sitting there on your, doing nothing. That's like not doing it.
Very true.
You have to put effort in, yeah.
Yeah. I would push back, though. I think you have a very insightful point there. I think hard work does pay off, but my stipulation to that would be sometimes it's better to think smarter than it is to work harder.
Oh, yeah. And what I mean by that, work smart. Do not work hard. Work smart. But usually working smart does include working hard, obviously.
100%.
You're just not putting in as much time in as just working stupidly. It's very important in anything that you do. Homework, school, entrepreneurship, business. Work smart, not hard. But again, usually you're going to have to work hard either way.
Very true. I want to touch on the business model a little bit more. Given the fact that you really bootstrapped this entire thing, and now you've garnered an audience, how have you gone about, monetizing the eyeballs, so to speak, that you have now?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We've been experimenting actually with a lot of different things. I can tell you this much: our revenue has actually been up over 2,000% for just year to date this year than last year, which is great. And hopefully it's going to keep expanding. But we've had different monetization options. One option that we've recently put in is sponsored debate, sponsored content. Another one is charging for our online debate club solution, and also just advertising. Now, advertising, that's very, very dependent on what platform are you utilizing to display your ads. Because if you're on one platform, they might pay you a much higher rate than another platform. So it's very important to do a lot of research before you actually sign up for stuff.
I totally agree. Joey, any final questions before we wrap up?
It just seems like you always add in, a little bit of how do I put it, like Jewish flair to it.
Chutzpah,
exactly.
Joey and I are both Jewish.
We're both Jewish.
Yeah.
We both have Jewish heritage. How do you think? I'm assuming you are too, since you mentioned that you have a history of family members in the Holocaust. How do you think your Jewish roots influence your work ethic and the way that you're running your business?
Great question. I'm actually Russian Jewish.
So are we.
Oh, wow. That's good. I mean, I knew by the name Baikov, so I knew my last name, and Golbin. But yeah, I think that being Jewish or Russian Jewish, or getting, your heritage from, if your family immigrates, for example, if you're a first-generation immigrant, a second-generation immigrant, you're going to have, I think, a great work ethic most of the time, because you're basically in an environment where, like, listen, my parents came here from the Soviet Union, where they were basically racially discriminated against. They came to America when they were 13 years old with the rest of my family, with my grandparents, my great-grandparents, to give me a better life and to give themselves a better life. So I'm very motivated to get a good return of investment, ROI, at the end of the day. I want to have them know that that's not just for no reason, and there is a good reason for actually coming and immigrating over here.
Great. I echo that sentiment 150%.
You're speaking the same language, my man.
Yeah. I recently read a book, oddly enough, not oddly enough, but it was about Israel. It's called Startup Nation. Highly recommend the book if you haven't read it. Very interesting, not even just from the perspective of how Israel has become a center of entrepreneurship, but really the authors dissect almost the cultural aspects that have led many Jewish people to be inclined in that capacity, fight off against so many enemies, regardless of whether or not people agree or disagree with how Israel treats their people and other folk. Which again, there's an important conversation to be had there, and I'm sure on your website people have put up that conversation. It's one of the most polarizing ones, I'd imagine. But yeah, I think there's something special about our people, I guess, that, you know, even throughout all of what we've gone through, we can still do exactly what you're doing. I mean, you're living and breathing what I'd imagine your parents and grandparents and all those who really died for us to be able to be here and have these opportunities is doing. So I am very, very excited about what you're doing, what we're doing, that we were able to connect like this. And, you know, even though virtually, even though you're pretty much, you know, down the street, so to speak. Aaron, I want to roll the red carpet out for you. Where can the people find you? What are you working on these days? Let them know.
Sure. So check out DebateIsland.com if you want to debate using a variety of formats with a huge, very civil community. Check out DebateIsland.com, and I think that you're going to love it. Also, check out lostcry.com if you have an ancestor that has a story to share, whether it's the Holocaust, wars, Armenian genocide, whatever it is, any type of hardship. Go ahead and share your ancestor's story to preserve that story and make sure that others are inspired. Also, check out my ancestors, you know, my great-grandmother's story of hardship, Tina Zazlowski. That's going to be on lostcry.com as well in the About section.
Fantastic, Aaron. Thank you so much for your time and for your work. And I am sure that this is the beginning of just a beautiful relationship that we can start, you know, trying to make this initiative possible. That is all from us on the DWD podcast. Of course, all of our socials are in the description down below. Please go check them out. We post exclusive content on each of our platforms. We will see you when we see you, folks. That's all. Peace.
Peace.
Aaron, that was fantastic, my friend.